So hey, how are you? Hope you're doing really well. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't met, hi, you can call me Tanon. And this is my channel. And today I don't know, I feel like this is a weird video for me because as you can see in the title, today I'll be doing the finale for my Panda palette. And yeah, it's a little bit weird to be filming this video. I was hoping to finish this project at the end of the year, and we're not even in October when I'm filming this, but I decided to finish it. But it's a little bit weird for me, kind of emotional, because the first video that I ever filmed in this channel, it was the Panda palette introduction. And at that time I was super nervous. I wasn't sure if this was going to work out, and it has been months since that. We've been growing slowly, but here we are today. And I'm going to be saying goodbye to my palette, the Romance palette by W7. I've been working in this palette since the beginning of the year, but I introduced this project back at the end of February when I upload my first video. And since then, I was really focused in trying to completely pan this palette, or at least hit pan on all of the shade. To be honest, I was never sure if I wanted to completely pan it, like completely finishing it, or just pan every shade. But at the end, I didn't achieve any of those two goals. This is how the palette is looking today. And as you can see, we have good progress. I'll try to leave a picture of how the palette was looking when I introduced it. But yeah, I think I had like 4 pans when I introduced this project, and right now I have 10 pans in this 14 shade eyeshadow palette. As you can see, this is a dupe for the ABH Soft Glam palette, and I'm going to be saying goodbye to this palette. The reason for that is because a month ago I filmed my last update for this project for the Panda palette, and since then I haven't used this palette like almost at all. The only thing that I've been doing now and then is using the cream shade to set my concealer, but that's all. I'm just tired of working in this color story. This is my older palette in my collection. It's not that old. I think I got it in May of 2019. But yeah, it was one of my first palettes, and it was for a very long time my favorite palette. I enjoy it a lot. And I've been thinking about this for a really long time, trying to think what I wanted to do with this palette. I wasn't sure if after finishing the Panda palette I was going to declutter it or not, or if I was going to continue panning it until it was completely finished. But now that I just don't feel inspired by this palette, and I don't want to force myself to keep using it when I don't feel like doing that. So we're going to be saying goodbye to this palette. I'm going to toss it away. This is an old palette. It's pretty well loved. I don't feel comfortable passing this palette to anyone else. And also now is when I have to admit that this W7 palette, it's the only palette on my whole collection that I don't know if it's original or not. Let me explain. When I just start buying makeup, at the beginning I think I bought like Makeup Revolution or their sister brands, something like that, palettes, and then I discovered W7. It has dupes for a lot of palettes. You probably know about this brand, and I really wanted this palette, but it was sold out in the W7 website, and I really wanted it, so I decided to buy it on Amazon. And at that time I wasn't aware that not all the makeup that it's sold in Amazon is original, so I wasn't sure about that. I like realized that soon after buying this palette, and I tried to see if this is an original palette or not, but I have never been certain if this palette is original or not. Like, it works well. I have never had any reaction on my eyes for using this palette. It smells fine, but I don't know, I will never be sure about that. Last year I saw like a TV show that it was on Netflix. Cannot remember the name right now, but I'll look for it and leave it like over here. And they were talking about the risk of non-original makeup. And since then I decided that I wanted to get good use out of this palette since I didn't have any reactions with it. But after that I was going to declutter it and toss it away. So that's what I'm going to do now. It's kind of sad for me to say goodbye to this palette, but I think it's time. I have good memories with this palette. Actually, I think a picture of this palette was the first post that I've ever made on my makeup Instagram account. So yeah, I have good memories out of it. At the beginning of 2020, as I said, this was my favorite palette, and the shade over here, Fairy Tale, was for a very long time my favorite like transition shade because it's a gorgeous color and perfect for my skin tone. But the last thing before saying goodbye to this palette will be to talk a little bit about how many times I have used each of these eyeshadows. I think I have pictures of how each shade was looking like in February, maybe on March, so maybe we can see some progress, some differences. So we'll go over all of the shades quickly, and then I don't know, maybe I'll do a makeup destruction video for it with this palette for my TikTok, like to make a little bit more content before saying goodbye forever. But yeah, let's go with the shades. Okay, I need my glasses for this, but let's start with the first shade, Infatuation. This is the shade I'm most sad about because I really wanted to completely pan it and finish it. And I was close, but I have a lot of cream shades, so I don't need this. But since I start counting the uses in that shade, I have used it 73 times. Definitely is the shade that I have used the most in this palette. Then we have Passion, and according to my notes, I have only used it twice this year. I think I panned this shade at the end of last year, but I don't think I used it after that. Then we have Fling, and that shade I have used it 16 times. This is a shade that at the beginning of the year I didn't have a pan, and at some point through the year I was able to hit pan on it. Then we have Ever After. This is a shade that I have to admit that I don't really enjoy. This is another pan that I hit this year, and I have used it 15 times since I started counting. But a couple of those times were like a nail polish topper, and I like that effect, but I don't know, I don't love doing that. Then we have Crash. This is a shade that I wasn't able to hit pan on, and I was hoping to do that before the end of the year. But since the last update, I haven't used it at all, and since I started counting, I have used it 10 times. Then we have Valentine, sorry, and this was one of my favorite golds. It's a really pretty gold, but now my collection is really huge and I have a million colors like that. This is another pan that I hit this year, and I have used it 17 times again since I start counting. And last in this row, I have Desire. This shade drives me crazy because I have used it 17 times since I started counting this year. And as you can see in the picture, it looks like I have barely touched it. Like now it has a little bit of a dip, but I feel like I will need like over 100 uses to be able to hit pan on that. Moving on to Last. Last is another shade that I have hit pan on this year, and I have used it 12 times this year. This is a color that when I just got this palette, I wasn't able to make it work, but now I actually like it. But again, I have over 40 eyeshadow palettes on my collection, so I have that shade a million times. Then we have Amour, and that shade, it's kind of weird. I have only used it once since the beginning of the year, or since when I started counting the uses, and I don't feel comfortable with this shade. I'll leave a picture, like a better picture over here, but I feel like it's kind of like rusty. I don't know, like there's something wrong with that shade. Like the borders, like on the corners of the shade, look darker than in the center. And with that, I haven't feel comfortable to use that shade for that reason. Fairy Tale, even if I said that this is one of my favorite colors in this palette, I have only used it 9 times since the beginning of the year. Well, Date Night is a shade that I was hoping to hit pan on before next update, and I have used it 17 times since in I start counting. I have said that a million times. But yeah, I have a dip on that shade, but we're nowhere close to pan in that shade. The last three shades we have Romeo. I have used it 5 times in this year. Affair I have used 13 times. This was another shade that I was wanting to completely pan this year. And to finish, we have Black Book, and this shade, it has a big, huge difference because I destroyed that shade a while ago when I got like a dupe from the Duraline drops. I wasn't sure how to use it, and I decided to sacrifice that shade and make an experiment and put the drops directly into the pan. And that was a bad idea because I ruined that shade. But yeah, those are all the shades and how many times I have used them. So it's time to say goodbye to this palette. It has been really well loved. I feel a little bit guilty about decluttering this palette, but I got my money value back. How do you say that? You have like a phrase to say that, but I cannot remember right now. But it was money well spent, but it's time to say goodbye to this palette and to the Panda palette. I've been thinking in what I want to do next year. I thought that I wanted to do a panda palette for another palette that I got since 2019 that I have barely used. But I don't know. I feel like I really got sick of this color story. I don't think I'm good using one palette, like focusing in only one palette for a whole year. I just get tired and bored of the color story, so I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm thinking that maybe for next year I'll have a focused palette in my Pando's eyeshadows, something like what Sophia Alexandra is doing in her Pando's eyeshadows. But yeah, I still need to think about that a little bit more. But that's everything for today. I think this video is going to be a little bit shorter than usual, but I'm not sure. But with nothing else to add, that's everything for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you're doing a panda palette and how you're doing. And if you have any tricks uh, to not get bored of an eyeshadow palette. But yeah, if you like it, please consider subscribing. I will love that. And I hope I'll see you in the next one. Bye.